Hello everyone. I'm not going to dive too deep into the build in this video. However, for those of you who are interested, don't worry, I'll be breaking down every detail in a follow-up video. Just remember, this is not only an Excalibur Umbra build. It's a build with the Warframe, the weapons, and the mods synergizing to take on all content in this game. This build is tailored to a particular playstyle, being my own, and I know it won't be for everyone. That said, feel free to use elements of this build to make or assist in one of your own. Adapt it, refine it, and make something that fits your playstyle. Even though I'm a hardcore Excalibur main, this setup can work on almost any frame. As for the weapons, you do not need to run the ones I do. As long as you understand the role you want your weapons to fill, you can elevate any weapon in this game to be on par, to be similar, or even surpass what mine currently do. If this video so far has inspired you, or even shifted how you look at playing Warframe, then I have done what I set out to do. With that in mind, let's quickly break down the build. This is my main, Excalibur Umbra, and this is the build I run on him. Before going over the mods, here's how I use his passive and abilities. Umbra's passive lets me Semi-AFK Farm, his first ability is used for brief invincibility and mobility, his second ability provides additional crowd control, and his third ability functions as a low-level nuke, paired with Furious Javelin becomes a strong melee buff. Lastly, his fourth ability keeps my companion alive, and with the synergy I discovered, effectively grants me Immortality. Here I use Augur Reach to boost my ability's range, which also adds shield gating into the build. Equilibrium, Prime Flow, and Energy Nexus fully handle the build's energy economy, while Blind Rage scales Furious Javelin, turning Umbra's third ability into a melee damage buff, massively increasing my melee damage. Holster Amp, Vigorous Swap, and Arcane Arachne boost all of my weapon damage, especially my melee, thanks to how my melee Arcane synergizes with these mods and Arachne. Rolling Guard, providing brief invulnerability and cleansing all status effects. Prime Surefooted to resist being knocked down, and lastly Molt Reconstruct, granting both team as well as self-healing, and with 45% efficiency, a single cast of my third ability heals for 597 HP. Moving on to my primary weapon, the Basmu. I've modded it for a mix of damage and utility, plus it's solid for priming. Not much to say about the build, however if you do not have a Riven mod like this one, please swap this out for a Toxin mod. Primed Cryo Rounds and Shivering Contagion convert the secondary fire into a form of crowd control, which I showed in the video as Cryostasis. Aero Periphery for the negative zoom and putting enemies to sleep, which is great against Demolists. Primary Dexterity is nice for the additional damage it provides, but since my gameplay is heavily melee orientated, I mainly use it for the combo duration bonus. Moving on, this is my secondary weapon, the Tenet Plinx, designed to kill Eidolons and pull aggro. Modded for damage, multi-shot, crit, and radiation to handle Eidolons. Radiation also helps pull aggro by confusing enemies. Now, for those of you who do not have a Riven, like this one, you can use whatever you want here. I'd recommend Convulsion, but feel free to experiment. Same as the Basmu, used for combo duration. This is my melee weapon, a Zor made up of 3 components. Pei, Balla, and Vegitujai. Created to nuke, clear groups, and handle all enemy types. The build is a hybrid build, centered around its critical mods for high damage and red numbers, with Weeping Wounds boosting status chance, especially electricity, to enhance melee influence. No Riven, use whatever you want. Condition Overload and Gladiator mods are good options. This Zor Arcane gives my melee a new attribute, allowing me to throw my melee and nuke maps. In my Warframe build, this is the Arcane I was referring to that synergizes with Arcane Arachne and the other 2 mods. Melee influence for its AOE and the DPS it provides against certain enemy types. Next up, the Parazon, modded for spy missions and hacking. Not much to say about this build, other than explaining what the mods actually do, so yeah. Untraceable makes me invisible for 15 seconds after hacking. Failsafe gives me a 50% chance to retry hacking, helping me avoid setting off the alarms if I fail. Auto Breach, 30% chance to auto-complete hacks, which is useful for missions where ciphers cannot be used. This is my trusted companion, the Panzer Vulpaphyla, modded for all sorts of things that work perfectly with my Warframe's Helmeth ability. Here's the build I run on my companion. Take a look, then I will explain why I use these mods. When using Umbra's third ability, Vicious Bond allows me to 100% AOE Armor Strip. Viral Quills spreads 10 stacks of Viral, boosting my damage dealt to enemy health, paired with Synth Deconstruct for Equilibrium to provide more energy. Fetch pulls mods and resources from 13 meters, paired with Resourceful Retriever for a chance at doubling my loot, making farming a lot easier. Contagious Bond enables my companion to nuke enemies through status effect spreading. Tech Assault is my companion's survivability, giving it a 60% chance to ignore lethal damage and not die. Martial Symbiosis basically means that when I take lethal damage, my companion dies instead. With my Helmuth ability, Master Summons, I can immediately revive it, effectively granting me Immortality. This is the discovery I mentioned in my Warframe's build, but certain tricky conditions must be met for this to work. Tandem Bond lets my companion build my combo, reaching 12 times in seconds. Since it's always alive and attacking, I can maintain the 12 times combo indefinitely. Tenacious Bond, solely for the additional critical damage. Here are my companion's claws. This build deals huge amounts of damage. That said, using Bellringer and Magnetic Strike, my companion can now prime enemies. This build spreads not just viral, but also heat, slash, impact, magnetic, and sometimes electricity. Moving on to my operator, I chose the Materai School, essential for both Eidolons and level cap Void Cascade. As far as my amp goes, I'm using the 747. For those unfamiliar with amp terminology, that translates to Clomora Prism, Fad Scaffold, and Certus Brace. For my amp Arcanes, I use Eternal Eradicate and Eternal Onslaught, as I believe they produce the highest overall damage. The Operator Arcane Mage's Lockdown lets me crowd control enemies, while Mage's Anomaly lets me pull enemies in. Moving on to the final part of the build, Archon Shards. These are not a necessity, however they can be very helpful. Here I utilize 3 Tau Purple Shards for melee critical damage, and thanks to Prime Flow in my Warframe build, I can exceed 500 energy, which doubles the damage boost. For the first Tau Yellow Shard, I use casting speed, which benefits all of my abilities. Lastly, the second Tau Yellow Shard gives me over half my energy at the start of a mission, which is great for survivability and speedrunning. Before reaching the end of this video, I want to mention the Exalted Blade. It isn't part of this build since I subsumed it for my current Helmuth ability. That said, for those interested, I can definitely make a video on it sometime in the near future. That about sums up the build. As someone who has played a single character for so long, I believe that every Warframe is strong, and that every weapon can be made powerful. I do acknowledge that there are some frames and weapons out there that may need to be reworked, but despite that, with enough knowledge, creativity, and persistence, you can make anything work. If it means something to you, it's worth pursuing. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving a like and subscribing. I'm honestly excited to see how you use my build or turn it into something completely your own. You might even take the inspiration and apply it to a different Warframe or weapon loadout. Anyway, keep creating, keep believing, and most importantly, keep moving forward.